Good evening, teachers. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for the third webinar in our series, marking the 90th commemoration of the Holodomor in Ukraine. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening from the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit, which is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, with whom we gratefully share this land. My name is Valentina Cureliu. I worked as a department head of history with 35 years of teaching experience at the Toronto District School Board. Presently, I serve as the Director of Education of the Holodomor Research and Education Consortium, commonly known as HREC, at the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies at the University of Alberta, with offices in Toronto. HREC was established in 2013 thanks to the generous support of the Temerty Foundation, for which we are very grateful. I am also the chair of the National Holodomor Education Committee of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. Because this year is the 90th anniversary commemorating Ukraine's genocide, we created the Webinars for Educators series, which focuses on recently published historical fiction centering on the Holodomor, which can be used in various ways in Canadian and American classrooms. Now I am proud to introduce our host for this evening. Mateusz Witlicki is an assistant professor at the University of Wrocław Institute for English Studies in Poland. He is the director of the Center for Young People's Literature and Culture and the co-founder of the Center for Research on Children's and Young Adult Literature. Mateusz has been a research scholar at the University of Florida's Department of English, Kosciuszko Foundation Fellowship, a Fulbright Scholar at the University of Illinois at Chicago, a visiting scholar at the University of Toronto, and has held multiple fellowships in Munich, Kyiv, and at Harvard. Dr. Witlicki is the author of more than 60 scholarly publications in English, Polish, Ukrainian, and Croatian. His work appears in many journals, including Children's Literature in Education and Bookbird. He is the deputy editor-in-chief of Philotechnos, a member of the editorial team of John Benjamin's Publishing's Children's Literature, Culture, and Cognition series, and a representative of the Childhood and Youth Network of the Social Science History Association. His latest book, Next Generation Memory and Ukrainian Canadian Children's Historical Fiction, The Seeds of Memory, examines the transnational entanglements of Canada and Ukraine. It is being published as we speak and will be out on March the 23rd of this month. Congratulations, Mateusz. And thank you for being our host tonight. We look forward to your insights.
Thank you. Tonight, I am pleased to introduce Carola Schmidt, who lives in Curitiba, Brazil. Called Carolina at birth, she was nicknamed Carola by her baba, Emilia, whose mother immigrated from Ukraine to Brazil. Wanting to know more about her family's homeland, a few years ago, Carola traveled to present-day Ukraine. She returned with a better understanding of her family's history. In Ukraine, Carola decided to write Tell Me a Story, Babushka, a tale of how she imagined her family's traumatic history. Today, Carola writes children's books and works as a pediatric oncology pharmacist, helping children going through cancer treatments. Carola has extensive experience in chemotherapy and stem cell transplantation for children, an area that she loves, and she has handled thousands of doses for kids of all ages, including babies. She is an oncological hospital pharmacy specialist with an MBA in planning and business management, and has experience with adult oncology as well. The subject of belonging has always fascinated her and informs her writing for children. Carola believes that we all have stories and history which deserve to be heard. Anita Bargigiani is the illustrator of Tell Me a Story, Babushka. She was born near Pisa in Italy. After graduating from the Academy of Fine Arts in Florence, she attended the Bologna Children's Book Fair for the first time and fell in love with children's books. Since then, she has worked as an illustrator for publishers and magazines. She currently lives in the mountains halfway between Florence and Bologna. Carola will be helping us to translate for Anita tonight. Tell Me a Story, Babushka is a picture book about a little girl who asks her Baba to tell her a story about a princess and a monster. What she is told is so much more. The true tale of her grandmother's escape from a prisoner of war camp in Siberia to freedom, all with the help of a secret message hidden inside a nesting doll. Carola, let's take a look at one of the first double spreads of your picture book. Tell Me a Story, Babushka starts and ends with a grandmother telling her granddaughter the story of her life. You are Brazilian, but your grandmother to whom you dedicated this picture book was Ukrainian. Was your grandmother the one who introduced you to the topic of the Holodomor?
No, it was not who introduced me to Holodomor. Actually, my family came very much without history. I attribute this to a trauma. So I think it was too painful for them to talk about this. So my family came very much without history. Baba's mother, she was born in Ukraine and she came to Brazil. And my Baba, actually, she was born already in Brazil, but she learned Ukrainian before Portuguese, and it was like a new Ukraine in Brazil. I knew very little about my history, so I had this need to feed my curiosity and a sense of belonging. So I traveled to Ukraine and I tried to learn more about my family and my history, and I didn't find out very much. But in this search, I had contact with a book that is The Harvest of Sorrow by Robert Conquest. That was my first contact with Holodomor. Then I started to remember that my other Baba, with the mother of my dad, told me some stories when I was little about her family in Ukraine, and the kids wanted to eat chicken, and the family had chicken, and they couldn't cook these animals because it was not of them anymore, it was of the government. And she told me a very sad story about this mother. She closing all the doors and windows and putting clothes in the under the windows and the doors to the smell to don't spread. And she went to cook a chicken for the kids. And even though there were military people coming and they confiscated the chicken and the kids crying and screaming. So I remember this story and I didn't know it was Holodomor and what happened, but I started this search for my own history. And in this process, I started to imagine how the story of my family was. This fairy tale is more the search for my history than the history itself. The first time I heard about Holodomor was actually some stories, but I didn't really know what that was.
Thank you. That's really fascinating. After her village is collectivized, the protagonist of Tell Me a Story, Babushka is exiled to Siberia. Although this traumatic experience saves her from starvation during the Holodomor, she loses her home in Ukraine and immigrates to another country. While at first glance, your picture book challenges the typical home away home plot, the little girl in your story finds a new home. However, she never forgets about Ukraine. How has the memory of the lost old country shaped you as an author and a scholar? So this question is directly connected to the previous one and also to your answer to the previous question.
It shaped me a lot by this sense of family, of community. My family, today I live in Curitiba, but my family is from another city called Prudentópolis, also in the state, Paraná. And it's a city with a lot of immigrants from Ukraine, the descendants now. And the sense of community, of belonging somewhere, and also the search for what is to belong, what is home, it shaped me a lot. And also in my career on cancer, because the kids with cancer, they also want to belong. They are experiencing something that other kids are not experiencing. And some girls don't have hair and they want to be loved and accepted as they are. The same like with immigrants. And now we have a lot of kids coming from other countries as well. I think this is not only my story, so it shaped me because I started to connect with other people and children, and I started to see that everybody has this desire to belong, and at some degree, everybody has a sense of I don't belong here at some moment in their lives. So I think this shaped me, this cultural heritage shaped also both a sense of belonging as desire for a search of what is really to belong.
Thank you. What you've said is very, very powerful, I think. This illustration, the granddaughter says, that's a very happy ending. You're a princess, Baba. And I think that showcases the importance of what you have said, that this ending is happy because she managed to find a new home. Your other picture books, as you have already mentioned, talk about cancer in a child-appropriate way. Reading picture books can have a therapeutic function as it leads to interactions between adults and children, allowing them to start discussing complex topics. Do you consider Tell Me a Story, Babushka a therapeutic picture book? And what age group did you have in mind while working on the book?
I consider it is very much therapeutical because wars generate a lot of traumas, and there are the generational traumas. So we need to talk about this. My family didn't talk about this. They didn't let me know the history. I think this is very important that we open the discussion. And the idea with this book is to open a safe place for kids to express themselves, to bring their sense of belonging or their sense of feeling lost and wanting to connect with other people like them, and this desire to be accepted like they are. And the idea is to open a safe place for discussion at classes and at home. So the teachers and the parents, they can discuss with the kids and can work with the class, and they can manage this all. So it's more fairy tale to open a conversation, to open a safe place. If you read the book, you will see there is not some details, like the book doesn't mention that Holodomor was caused by Russia, for example. it's clear for us adults because of the illustrations of Anita as well, and because of some words and the Holodomor words, but most of the kids will not know this. The teachers and the parents, they can talk about this and bring this subject in a safe way without the kids. My idea was that the kids don't create a prejudice and make these war even worse and everything that is happening even worse by creating a xenophobic point of view. And I consider that it's very much therapeutical, not only for families and for kids, but also for us as society.
Thank you. Despite your cultural background, you wrote Tell Me a Story, Babushka in English. In some way, it resembles a fairy tale about an unusual princess. Moreover, it contains references to things that are familiar to most readers, yet ones they did not necessarily associate with Ukraine. For example, the matryoshkas or the titular word babushka. Can you explain these choices?
Yes, as having a Brazilian background, and being descendant from Ukrainian, I had a big mix in my heritage and my connections, and most of my family is of Ukrainians. I don't have any Russians in my family. A little bit of Spanish in the side of my dad, one Polish in my family as well. So there was a mix, and Brazilians do this a lot. They mix cultures and heritages, and they like to make these syncretisms. For example, I call my baba babinha many times. That is baba, the Ukrainian word, and this inha in the end, the part is Brazilian. It's a diminutive that we use as a fond way to call people. So I call her Babinha. That's very Ukrainian with together with Portuguese. This mix, I think it's very interesting. And I wanted to open this conversation as well in the book for classes or at home as well about what kind of cultural exchange is healthy and what kind is not. My idea is to discuss about cultural appropriation that is very harmful and cultural imposition, like, for example, Russia making Kiev become Kiev, that is very harmful. But there is also the natural cultural exchange that helps naturally between people. Some way, I and my cousin decided sometimes to call my baba Babushka as well. And because I don't know if this is Ukrainian or Brazilian, but there in my hometown, people have a lot of nicknames for kids and for their loved ones, a lot. So we call each other many names, and one of them was Babushka, or my baba. We call her sometimes Babinha, Baba, Babushka. And I think Babushka is a word that kids are very familiar with. It's, who have English as the first language. It's a fond word, and that's why I didn't want to like censor this word. I wanted to keep it and create this open space for kids to discuss this with the teachers. I think it's a very healthy discussion. What is adequate, what is inadequate, what is cultural imposition, what is cultural exchange, and what is healthy and what is not. And the same happens with matryoshka, because I think it's a word that is it was used in the book in a fond way, but it's also a word that many kids who have the English as the first language, they can understand and relate to. So I think this discussion is very healthy, and my choices were more because of this myth that I have, cultural myth as a Brazilian, and also because this book is more my search for my identity and a search for my history and my story, and that I wanted to make this mix, and that it's okay. We can identify ourselves with something and something else. I think many kids were born in this new Ukraine as well, that unfortunately had a lot of cultural imposition, and maybe they're struggling very much for their identity and who they are. And here, as Brazilian but descendants of Ukrainians, I have these all these mix and.
Thank you. That has been really informative. Let's look at two double spreads, one that includes the Matryoshka doll. Anita, I'd like to ask you a question. It's interesting that you have no direct links to Ukraine. Was it difficult to illustrate a story set in a historically and geographically distant place? What was your inspiration for the beautiful illustrations you created in Tell Me a Story, Babushka? In your drawings, the facial expressions, the moods created by the colors and the shapes all harmonize together to create certain feelings in the book. What did you most want to express when you were illustrating the story, or what was the most important to express?
I will read Anita's answer.
Thank you, Carola.
I love your art. It's fabulous. I love it, how the way all these cultures meet Italian with Brazilian, and the publisher that is American. So expressive. And I'm so happy you're here.
Me too. Thank you.
No, it wasn't too difficult. I'm Italian, and I grew up with my grandparents, including those of the war. In Italy, during the Second World War, many families were deported, and my grandparents had to flee. Carola's story, although it speaks of another historical event in another country, I found it very close to me and to the history of my family.
Thank you. It's interesting to think about the intercultural, transcultural similarities and differences, all of the entanglement, let's say, found in this book. Anita, which illustration is your favorite and why?
I think my favorite illustration is the one on the cover. I tried to enclose more emotions in the face of the protagonist, who, looking at the viewer, invites her to discover her story.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the most beautiful ones. I think that we all really love the illustration in which the protagonist is protected by her parents. It's also a very powerful illustration. It's really powerful, so we can see the emotions in the girl's face, but also the parents and the vulnerability of the parents. So and the monsters. I think that it's a really powerful illustration. It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. I know that Tell Me a Story, Babushka has received glowing reviews. How are readers responding to the book so far?
The readers are so loving. The reviewers, they are saying great things. They love the illustrations of Anita. And I heard a lot of teachers telling me that it was the first time they heard about Holodomor. So I think it was fabulous. And I heard about a lot of people saying they connect with the book even though they don't have any Ukrainian background. And I think this is fabulous because Babushka, to me, she's not only Baba, she's Oma, grandmother, grandma, abuelita, nona, she's them all. So she's that strong woman, all of these powerful women in our lives, and this connection that we have as kids, the respect for their story and family and cultural background. So I think people are getting this, and I'm very happy about it.
I'm very happy that the critical responses have been so positive. I'm very happy that also the readers have been reacting to this book in such beautiful and positive ways. So talking about this book, are we planning on collaborating on other projects connected to the historical experience of Ukrainians? Have you thought about it?
I would love to. I am all open for invitations, and there's a second book. Babushka was the first one of a series, actually, because it was first published independently. So there was a second book that Mateus read, by the way, and this book is Babushka coming back to Ukraine, and he feels a strong sense of what is really to belong, and he feels very much homesick there. It was kind of my own search for belonging, that I found out that belonging is something moving. I think we are in movement, and I think belonging is how we connect to people, to places, and not only one. So several places, several people, several experiences, and how we exchange this, how we change, how we evolve. Then Babushka goes there to Ukraine, and she feels homesick because she remembers Karina. And this is a second book in the series. Then it happened that HREC published the first book, Babushka. So maybe I didn't show to them, I think, the second book yet. And maybe if they have interest in publishing the book and if they illustrate in the second book, or maybe other projects. I'm all open to invitations and opportunities. Can I tell my website here? kidcancerbooks.com. So if anybody has any ideas to keep going these projects and with opportunities to spread the word about Holodomor, and not only this, but about Ukraine and what is going on there right now. I'm all about invitation.
I truly hope that the second Babushka book will be published and will also be illustrated by Anita, because we definitely need to have another book illustrated by Anita, another book about Karina and her grandmother, because I think that the story is fantastic. There's this wonderful relationship between the story and the images. So I can totally see you collaborating in the future. That's what definitely I would like to happen. Valentina, do you have any comments you want to make at this time?
Yes, I would. Thank you. First of all, some of this might be a bit repetitive, but bear with me. The book is beautifully illustrated. I was absolutely floored by what I saw. I was very pleased. The faces drawn are very sympathetic and endearing. The story itself begins with the life of a child, a happy child, living in a village in Ukraine with their parents, until the monsters come. And then the family is deported to Siberia. And the worst thing that happened was that the little girl was separated from her family, so that she ended up in a camp with other children, away from not knowing where her parents were. in a dorm, like a dormitory, and being looked after by guards, until a person who was sympathetic to the plight of the children actually tried to help them escape while the guards were away. She did it through the nesting dolls. Now, you might say, well, it's a matroshka. Well, a matroshka is a common thing in Siberia. Had it been a Ukrainian nesting doll, that would have been suspicious. This would not bring the guards, should they see it, to suspect that something was going on. And of course, the kids went into the inside of the nesting doll and they found the little story. They found the instructions of how they could get away. So it ended up being the right thing to do. So I thought that was very good. In actual fact, this little story is an extension of the Holodomor story that we don't often hear about. When we talk about the Holodomor, we often hear that people were deported to Siberia. But here we have a glimpse of life in Siberia for some children, and also how they were able to escape from the camps. So that's different. It also shows how people were willing to help others survive, even in dire straits and under great risk to themselves. We are not told who the person was, but it doesn't matter. Someone was kind. The story is thus about a negative experience that has a positive ending. It is resolved through the children having an opportunity to save themselves. And this shows us that even in difficult situations, the children can see that they can come out of them and thrive. I'd also like to add that one of the activities that I could see that teachers might be interested in was to ask their students in the classroom to see what other outcomes could have happened. What could have happened to these children had this not happened, and come out with outcomes, because children like to imagine and they could come to some conclusions. So the book is very suitable to be read to children's, I would say, kindergarten age, you'd be reading to them because they probably wouldn't be reading to themselves. But it's also, I would say, up to the middle years. I would say as up to grade 4. I think it still has a lot of merit, and it certainly is interesting. And I think that would be the right thing to do.
Thank you, Valentina. Thank you for your insightful comments and great observations. So while we're still waiting for questions from the audience, I can ask you a question. Have you thought about translating this book and publishing it in Brazil, or so in translating it into Portuguese, and also translating it into, for example, Ukrainian or other languages?
I would love to translate and publish in other languages. I started to publish books in Portuguese, actually, but here in Brazil, I didn't have really opportunities. It was easier for me to learn English better, to buy the Chicago Manual of Style, read it all, and make my English better than having any opportunity here. Brazil is very complicated. Then I started to write in English. My biggest market today is the US, and the countries of English language, they buy books. But I think it's important still though for those people who really read. I would like to, but I don't know how to proceed with this, because it's more a matter of opportunities.
I hope that soon you will get such offers, because this book is spectacular. Okay, we have a question. Was the book difficult to write? Was it enjoyable to illustrate?
I think it was hard to start the book because I felt like I wouldn't be able to tell this story that is not defined. It didn't have a form, but we all don't have a form because we are people that are moving and changing and trying to understand ourselves and who we are and why we are like we are. So we don't need to label everything, to define everything. When I realized this, that it was okay to make a fairy tale, it didn't need to be a history book with totally accurate history, because teachers would talk about history with the kids, would work this part, and it didn't need to be perfect. It could be imperfect like we human beings are. And it would open discussion and give kids the opportunity to evolve the story, to bring their thoughts. So then it flowed. But until I realized it dissolved, it was hard to start actually.
Anita, was it enjoyable to illustrate it?
My favorite part to illustrate was, as I say, the cover, and I think it was very interesting to find a solution to illustrate the monsters, because it's not so easy to draw something that we know that are people, but we have to find a way to show them like monsters without give to them an identity of a country, of face of people, because it's not the sense of the illustration. So it has been very interesting to try to find a solution for this part, and I really enjoy to draw this part.
And you definitely succeeded. You definitely succeeded. We have another question. Carola, what does your Baba think about this book?
My Baba loves it. The other Baba already died, but this Baba that I am more close to, that is the mother of my mother, she loves it, that it's dedicated to her and to Karina. Karina is a cousin of mine, actually. She is very close to me. We grew up together. She was feeling very emotional, but she is now very old, so I was not able to read the whole book to her, so I was just showing, and she liked it very much. She was very emotional about it.
I'm pretty sure that she also enjoyed the illustrations. Yeah. So even without having the necessary reading skills, you can work with this book. So that's why I think that is great in teaching also, because you can tell the story as the title suggests. You can use this book as a storybook. Yeah, it's a picture book. So so as you've said, it can be used not only with children. We have actually a comment. I will read this comment. My grandchildren, grade 6 and 7, still ask me stories about Ukraine and my parents and grandparents who fled during war. So I believe this book will be advantageous for older children. This is a universal picture book. It reminds me of Marcia Forchuk-Skripek's Enough. So it's equally universal. So it may be appealing to younger children, but also to older children and to older readers in general. So that's why picture books are so powerful, I think. Are you planning to come to the US and Canada to promote this book? Is it something you've thought about? Because you said that the US is your main, market.
Yes, I am planning. I love the US and I don't know Canada yet, but I am sure I will love it. And I was talking with my agent about planning a visit and see some schools to visit and everything. And it's nothing certain yet, but we have been talking about it.
Carola, the book is gently told, yet the fear in it remains palpable. How do you pitch your writing for children to achieve this?
I tried to don't write anything that could trigger something on kids, but at the same time, I didn't want to hide. I wanted to show that it's a very serious subject that we need to learn about to don't repeat the history. and to evolve as human beings. So I wanted to don't hide things, but don't trigger feelings. My idea was like, for example, I tell that they lived happy until the monsters came. So the monsters are people, they are Russians. It happened at the Holodomor. I didn't want to make it explicit because I didn't want to trigger anything on kids and trigger a hate. Maybe there are Russian kids at the classroom. So this is a subject that needs to be talking, but in a delicate way, and teachers can do this. So it was more to open this conversation. So that was more or less my process.
Thank you for the thought-provoking questions. Thank you to Carola and Anita, most especially for joining us and sharing your creative process with us. Thank you for answering all of these great questions. Thank you to our webinar techs for their amazing job. Thank you for the amazing job you do. Thank you to the incredible Sophia Isayu for organizing and coordinating these webinars. And thank you to Valentina Corelli for introducing the webinars and for her important summary remarks. Valentina, could we have your closing remarks, please?
Certainly. I would like to thank once again Carola Schmidt and Anita Bargigiliani for their beautiful and heartwarming storybook. We need books for the younger grades, and you have done an excellent job in getting that emotional feeling, just as you described, that it was done in a gentle way, even though it was a terrible thing that happened to them. Also, I'd like to thank you, Mateus, for gracing us with your knowledge and expertise in hosting this webinar. Congratulations to you for doing a fabulous job. It was truly a pleasure. For everyone who came to participate today, in the chat, you will find a list that you can download before you leave of resources about the Holodomor that are suitable for different grade levels in schools and that you might be interested in using in the future. Our next Thursday evening webinar is on April the 20th, 2023, at the same time, that is 7:30 in the evening. We will be looking at and discussing American author Catherine Marshall's newly published novel, The Lost Year, with her to commemorate this year's Holodomor Remembrance Day in schools during April, Genocide Remembrance, Condemnation, Prevention, and Education Month. So it just happens to coincide with that, and we made a point of making sure we had a webinar for that. For additional information about the Holodomor and our webinar series, please visit our website, education.holodomor.ca. It also has plenty of teacher resources and teaching materials for your use. Also, please consider applying for our annual HREC Educator Award for Holodomor Lesson Plan Development, which is information is on our website. And the deadline to apply is May 1st of each year. And if you don't have it already, please download our annual Holodomor Memorial Day pamphlet, which highlights an announcement you can read over the PA for your school and has all kinds of resources and suggestions on what you could do with the Holodomor for classroom use. And remember also that another Remembrance Day for Holodomor occurs on the 4th Friday in November in schools across Canada as well. Now, if you need a text for teaching the Holodomor, there is information about my book called Holodomor in Ukraine for Teachers and Students on our website as well. So there's lots and lots of information. And thank you all for participating and for your interest in the Holodomor. Today, Russia's war on Ukraine continues. we see in it that some of the things happening in today's war are very similar to what happened to people during the Holodomor in Ukraine in the 1930s, especially what is happening to the children of Ukraine today. Just the other day, I read an article that they say that at least 11,000 children have been deported from orphanages or taken away from their parents and placed in youth camps in Russia, and are being adopted and are being re-educated to become Russian. We see that in this and in other ways, the Kremlin's genocidal intentions for Ukraine and its people remain the same as they were in the 1930s during the Holodomor. An attempt to destroy all vestiges of Ukrainian identity. So I thank you for your interest and thank you for participating. God bless you and good night.